Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers, and we did it, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving on. This is a wrap-up episode for Prohibition era. We're going to give you the details on the effects of Prohibition and what is later to become of it, of the effects. And you'll hear that from the next 15 episodes after this.
Pretty much. It's kind of, like a quick little recap of, like Dang said, what happened.
It meant to be a good thing, but it turned out to be
Right.
another rules for thee, but not for me.
Which I have a great story at the end of this part on the effects of Prohibition of just exactly that. Rules for thee, not for me.
All right.
We climbed that mountain. We came down the other side.
This is probably going to be the pinnacle of Outlaws and Gunslingers.
And now our tour guide has vowed to never, ever work again in this industry because the whole time he was on the mountain with us.
All right.
He was like, wow, these fucking guys. They say the F word every 5 fucking seconds.
Right.
He's like, and
He's
now
like-
I say it.
he's
He's
like,
like,
why'd
I've
you
never
guys
used that word in my
Why do
life.
you guys even bring me along when you don't listen to anything I say?
That's true. He's like, what the fuck, dude? You're supposed to be listening to me. I'm your, what do they
Right.
call those guys from Mount Everest?
Tour guides.
No.
Oh, they're
what the fuck are they called?
Are they? Oh,
They're
Sherpas.
Sherpas. Yeah, they're
Sherpas.
Sherpas.
Yeah, Sherpas.
Yeah, we had our own little Sherpa, and
Right.
he vowed to never Sherpa again after he
Right.
went up this mountain, came back down with us. But we're
We
finally,
we had our own little Sacagawea, and he Sacagawea'd out of here.
yeah, well, just like Sacagawea and Lewis and Clark, we'll probably get our statue removed too.
Right. Just like everybody.
Right. Watch the Prohibition documentary. 'Cause
It's
anybody
fantastic.
that's ever watched a Ken Burns documentary knows that he's like the
Right.
most in-depth
Right.
and best documentarian that
And it's
there
not
ever
one-sided, or he's going to give you facts.
is. He doesn't just
everything.
do.
He's
I
going to give
mean-
you facts like we give you.
He's got great Civil War, World War II.
No, his Civil War is probably one of the best. And his World War II.
The history of baseball from the beginning all the way up to
That's-
whenever that documentary was made
Yeah, but that's-
is fucking magnificent.
It's magnificent, but it's not
How isn't it?
fully detailed.
How isn't it?
It's not. There's missing a few parts. But yeah, any other
You've
ones?
literally never seen his documentary
I've
on
seen
baseball.
all of them.
But yeah, Ken Burns, go watch Prohibition, the documentary on, I'm sure it's wherever now, but if you have PBS. Does PBS have a paid streaming service?
I'm sure they do.
I doubt they do. But yeah, it's safe to say that Prohibition was a complete failure, which we've been highlighting for the last, 13 weeks now?
Right.
Not surprising considering that this wasn't even the first attempt at banning alcohol in the United States. Well, back in 1844, a town in Massachusetts banned the sale of alcohol, and a local tavern owner charged people to see a...
PBS does have a streaming app.
Do they?
Yep. Where are we at now?
Back in 1844, a town in Massachusetts banned the sale of alcohol, and a local tavern owner charged people to see a striped pig, and the price of admission came with free drinks.
Hey, well,
Maine passed a prohibition law in 1851, which led to the public resenting their government, which resulted in a deadly riot in Portland, Maine, that is,
All right.
in 1855, and the law soon got repealed.
maybe it's the city of Portland. Any city
It's-
of Portland. Any city named Portland
Right.
is prone to fucking.
It's important to know that, obviously, you
anarchists.
guys already know that possession and consumption of alcohol wasn't prohibited, just the
Not
sale,
here- not
the
here yet.
transportation. No, even in
Oh,
Prohibition.
even in Prohibition,
Just
yeah.
the sale,
Just the sale,
manufacturing,
right.
and
Right.
transportation.
If you actually got caught with it, but you're gonna be
You only have
Question-
one bottle. They're
but
not
you're
going to
gonna be-
fucking be like, oh,
right,
whatever,
but you're gonna
whatever.
be questioned like
Yeah.
some bitch.
What do you do? Well, even President Hoover himself once called Prohibition a great social and economic experiment, noble in motive and far-reaching in purpose.
I mean, he ain't lying.
he was against it.
He's against it, but he ain't lying.
He was against Prohibition from the get, and Congress voted him
I mean,
down.
come on. It is a great social and economic experience.
Well,
Experiment. It is a noble in motive, right? But like you said,
yeah, the motive for it was
right.
noble. Hey, we want to stop wife beating and like
Well,
all that
just
consumption.
ruining of
We want to
lives,
stop cirrhosis of the liver. We want to
Right.
stop all that
Because
stuff.
that shit, they weren't drinking. I mean, they were drinking beer, but most people drink hard liquor back then,
man, yeah.
and that shit affects your liver like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
Right. He was like, it didn't reach his
Unfortunately
purpose.
for Hoover, this noble experiment failed miserably.
I mean, he knew it was. Everybody knew it was going to fail.
That's why he was opposed to it in the first place.
Everybody knew it was going to fail.
You don't want to do that shit.
Prohibition supporters were initially surprised by what did not come to pass during the dry era. When the law went into effect, they expected sales of clothing and household goods to skyrocket.
Yes, they did.
Real estate developers and landlords expected rents to rise as saloons closed and neighborhoods improved. Well, saloons, they might have closed publicly. Neighborhoods did not improve at all. Chewing gum, grape juice, and soft drink companies all expected for major growth, right? Oh, and cigarettes, even more cigarettes. So you're going to get chewing tobacco, chewing gum, grape juice. I don't know why about grape
anything
juice.
else that you could
Anything
else that you could basically substitute alcohol with.
Right. Was going to be expected. They expected a big boom in the economy and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Theater producers expected new crowds as Americans looked for new ways to entertain themselves without alcohol.
Right.
Well,
what do we do, Jed? Well, I heard that
can see
theater
what
down there on 34th and 8th is playing.
I can see what they're saying, but in like the first 2 or 3 years, I don't think so, because everybody's going to be like, fuck everything, you know what I mean? Maybe if it would have worked and stuck out, then everybody's like, oh, we got, after about 3 years, everybody's out in town, right? You know what I mean? Well,
no, it actually had the opposite effect.
Right. None of this
No,
came to pass.
it had the opposite effect. Not like necessarily stuff rising, but it's not in this article. But if you look at
in the
numbers,
first couple of years, of course that's going to happen.
If you look at numbers of,
they didn't give enough time to change.
If you look at numbers of consumed alcohol, I'm not talking about this.
I know, but I don't even think 10 years or 13 years was even long enough for Prohibition to even work. You know what I mean?
Well,
really,
if you look at 5 years before, from 5 years before Prohibition came into effect, I was reading an article today. People were drinking the average of like 12 gallons a year.
12 gallons
of
that's a lot.
Pure pure alcohol.
Pure alcohol.
So they took there's like 12 grams of alcohol in a 12-ounce beer, a shot, and whatever ounces a glass of wine would be. So all those have 12 grams of alcohol.
Right.
And they calculated that through that pure alcohol amounted to 12.5 gallons each person, average a person a year.
And
in the first 2 years of...
That's not even counting beer and
No,
wine.
it is it's beer, yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. There's 14 grams in each of those things, a 12-ounce beer, a shot, and whatever the equivalent of wine is.
Right.
So through all those together, the average American drink 12.5 gallons of pure alcohol a year.
The average.
Which
means
the
most
average,
Americans
the first 2 years of Prohibition went down from 12 gallons to like 8 gallons.
Yeah,
so
how
it
they
did.
figure that
It
out?
did.
How they figure that out?
They went from...
How they figure that out?
I'm glad you asked, because the article said even though there's no reliable way of tracking it since it was illegal,
right?
But they went from people who were hospitalized for cirrhosis, consumption, all that type of stuff, alcohol-related, or arrested for alcohol and all that stuff.
Okay, so I mean, went down how many?
To about 8 gallons per American.
That's a lot.
That is fucking a lot.
That is a lot.
That's still a lot.
Right.
That's still a lot
that
to
they
drink 8 gallons, but
that they known about, but
well,
it wasn't really.
Right.
So they had the stats to back their shit up, but everybody knew that's bullshit.
For the first couple years, though.
Right. They knew that's bullshit, though.
Right. Well, instead, the unintended consequences proved to be a decline in amusement and entertainment industries across the board. Who wants to do stuff without alcohol, first of all?
Right.
Restaurants failed as they could no longer make a profit without legal liquor sales, obviously, which anybody will tell you pop and alcohol are the two biggest sales. Why do you think? Why do you think stadiums and baseball have dollar beer night? You know how much fucking money they make off that dollar beer?
Or when you go to McDonald's, is $1 soda, whatever.
Whatever size, right?
Whatever size.
Yeah.
Or free refills when you go to a restaurant. Because guess what? They're making, when you buy one soda for $1.59 at anywhere, whatever it is, you buy a fucking fountain drink for $1.59, right? You know how much it costs those people? Seriously? It's about 10 cents.
Yep.
It's about 10 cents. Seriously, that you're paying $1.59 for. Imagine 1,000 people come and pay $1.59 and there's only costing them 10 cents per drink. You know what? That's like 800% profit. Seriously. It's like 1,000%, not even 1,000, not 1,000. It's like 800% profit. It's just ridiculous.
What are you talking about? It's way more than 800%.
Right. It has to be like 1,500% profit. Right?
Let's see, test 10 cents out of 179.
And
so
you get
100% profit would be...
Let's say, okay, if anybody knows restaurant, a 5-gallon box of soda is 324 12-ounce drinks. 324 12-ounce drinks, and you can buy those boxes. If you're in a restaurant, you're paying $50 to $70, $80 a piece. If you're going to like Gordon's or something, you're paying $5 more or so. So it's $80 for a box.
Most of the people that are listening to this probably have no idea what Gordon's is.
Right. Or any place where you can buy product in bulk. You're paying $80 for
yeah, it's $80 to $90.
Right.
I get it.
Right. You sell it for $120.
Well, no. No.
That's my company does.
Normal people don't.
My company does.
No, most restaurants
right, you
buy it
from
for
instantly.
$80.
Right, $80. Okay, so you figure $80, right? You get 324 12-ounce drinks, and you usually selling 20-ounce drinks, so you can say, well, let's put that on
About 250.
About 270. About 270 20-ounce drinks
that you're selling for
$1.79.
$1.70, yeah.
$1.79.
So that's instantly already $300 you made from that case.
Right. Well, it's more than that. It'd be about $350 for an $80 case.
Right.
So you just made $280.
Right. And
off just one case.
One case.
That's just one case. That's Coke. And then you got people drinking Diet.
Everything else. You
drinking
got
Sprite.
at least 8 other pops that a fucking normal restaurant has. So if you figure times 8.
Right. That hamburger that you're buying for fucking $6.99 by itself costs the company maybe $1. The beef's the most expensive in the bread. And everything else is fucking cheap as fuck. You're getting lettuce, tomatoes for pennies on the fucking cents. Pennies on the cents, if that's even possible. So you're paying $7 for a burger that costs the company maybe $1 to make.
It costs about $2 maybe.
Maybe. The cheese is expensive, you're right. Yeah, cheese is
about $2.
About $2. But still, that's
either way, they're making
profit.
a killing off everything.
Right.
We got on that because restaurants failed as they could no longer make a profit without legal liquor sales.
Right.
That's why we got on that.
And how is that even possible, though?
Theater revenues declined rather than increase, and few of the other economic benefits that had been predicted even
soda
happened.
And all that made up for the waste of food. When you had to, I mean, you're throwing food away. I don't give a fuck. You're a restaurant owner. You're throwing food away. Right?
What's that got to do with the liquor?
Well, you're talking about saving money. It didn't work out. They're throwing how much food away because no one was coming because they couldn't drink.
Right.
So they kept on buying. Okay.
I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
Right,
Nobody came, or
right. They're ordering the same amount that
right.
they've been ordering for the past 10 years, and next thing you know, oh shit, we're going through.
Well, if
half
it's a
of it.
smart business, they could realize in a couple of weeks, hey
Right.
man, we should probably lower our stock down a little
Right.
bit. But,
Yeah, but if you do, and then you don't
even
have
then,
it,
if nobody's coming, what does it matter how much you're
I'm
ordering?
saying,
You're
but
still
even-
not making money.
But even if you do lower your stock, and then next thing you know, you got a bunch of people, and then you don't have the product, and that even pisses people off even more.
Right.
I mean,
True.
I mean, it's a fucking hit and miss business
True.
there, bud.
True.
Anyhow, on the whole, the initial economic effects of Prohibition were largely negative.
Largely.
The closing of breweries, distilleries, and saloons led to the elimination of thousands of jobs.
At this time, the 5th highest employer in the United States was the alcohol industry, too.
Right.
So
Right.
you literally put the 5th highest grossing industry
Out of business.
in America out of business.
Out
What
of
the fuck do
business.
you think's going to happen?
Right. Right. And in turn, when this happened, thousands more jobs were eliminated for barrel makers, truckers,
Damn.
waiters,
Right.
and other related trades that were connected to
Right.
alcohol business.
Nobody needs to haul all this alcohol no
So
more.
not only did thousands of jobs just from the distilleries and breweries and saloons get lost, but you got even hundreds of thousands of jobs lost from
In the manufacturing business,
right
and
the
the
barrel
trucking
makers,
business,
the trucking, and the
waiters.
waiters, and the restaurants alone by themselves. Wow.
That's crazy.
The unintended in quotation marks economic consequences of Prohibition didn't stop there.
I don't think
guys.
no. That's
didn't
exactly
stop
why
there.
Hoover didn't want it.
They knew it was happening.
Exactly why
What-
Hoover didn't want it. I mean,
what
it's
year was
fucking
this?
ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, this is after the
This
Titanic.
is
Yeah, this is after the Titanic sank and the globalists were already the fucking
elite 1%ers.
yeah, the money, what do they call it? Oh, Federal Reserve been kicked in.
I don't
1912.
think the Federal Reserve came to like the 30s, did it?
I think it was like 19 fucking something, right? The Federal Reserve. All was 1912 with 1913.
1913.
Yeah,
Federal
1913.
Reserve System was born from December 12th to 1913.
Hey guys, if we have any conspiracy theorists here, look up the deaths if there's a list of who died from the Titanic.
Of course it is.
That's all you gotta do.
All you gotta do is type in.
That's all you gotta do, bud.
All you gotta do is type in famous people who died on Titanic.
And then look up another
and then
list.
You'll look up. All you gotta do is look up their profession,
Right.
And you'll see how many were bankers and how many.
And then you look up another list and see how many people canceled their tickets for the Titanic. Rockefeller, Chase Bank, JB Morgan or whatever.
Hey, but his wife was supposed to be sick the morning before, so they canceled.
Yeah, supposedly.
Right.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do is look.
John Jacob Astor the Fourth.
And
he was
they made
most
a song
famous
about him.
and richest.
They made a song about him.
He was
John
a German American
Jacob
millionaire.
Astor the Fourth.
He was a real estate.
His name is my name too. Oh.
He was a real estate
Who does he
mogul.
know? Wait, what?
John Astor the Fourth.
Okay.
He was a great grandson of John Jacob Astor, founder of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, the most popular and famous hotel in New York. His wife and kid made it.
His wife made it. He didn't. Which is, I mean, that's what happened.
And we had Benjamin Guggenheim,
German, another German,
heir to the family's mining business.
Heir to a mining business of where?
Isidor Strauss, co-owner of Macy's department store.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow!
Died alongside his wife Ida.
He didn't leave his wife. That's a man.
Baby grandson Stuart was due to be on the voyage, but he was sick and had been left in England.
That's nice. Good thing he's still around.
Thomas Andrews, a shipbuilder.
Right.
Captain Edward Smith, Unknown child, fictional Jack Dawson. Billy. Yeah, that's not even a complete list.
Right,
Fucking, they didn't even tell who really died on there.
Right, but that's just
right
a small example. And then the even bigger picture is who canceled their tickets.
The founder of Macy's, though, Macy's was pretty fucking huge in the early 1900s.
They're
like
still
one
huge.
of the. Well, I'm saying Macy's is one of the literal top businesses in the 1912 and shit. Dude.
Right.
So imagine how much power that guy had. First of all,
they don't call it the Macy's Day Parade for nothing.
Right.
Wow. So I mean, guys, these conspiracy theories have been going back since the Titanic sank. So there's actually before then, from the 1900s on up.
Well, conspiracy theories have been rampant with
Lincoln.
Well, when you go to America, fucking the founding fathers, Freemasons, the way Washington's built with all the roads forming a star,
I mean,
like the Mason Star and all that stuff, dude. Yeah.
I mean, they were known Freemasons. One of the most profound effects of Prohibition was on government tax revenues.
Oh, yeah, they fucked themselves.
Before Prohibition, many states relied heavily on excise taxes and liquor sales. You know, that's what they needed to fund the budgets. They're like, we need that. That's a major part. They didn't realize that. In New York, almost 75% of the state's revenue was derived from liquor sales. 75%.
You know what? That's exactly what we're seeing today with marijuana. In Michigan's state tax is only 6%, but it's another 6% on top of that to buy marijuana. So that means it's 12%.
12%.
And you know how much money they're making off that extra 6%?
A lot.
Even fireworks. That must have been a new law because when we went and bought fireworks, if you buy them at like a department store, how they have like the shelf of the stupid fireworks, they all had Post-it notes. Due to Michigan law, fireworks are another 6% tax increase. So you're paying 12% tax on fireworks too.
Right.
So they're making fucking buku money off of
the
fucking
place I went to
those types of taxes.
Had to give me a little paper with the law on it. Yep, I got that.
Yeah, they're making buku dollars off that tax, dude.
Right. You ain't kidding. So, like we said, New York, 75% of the state's revenue in liquor taxes. With Prohibition in effect, that revenue was immediately lost.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately,
the day the law went into effect, bam! They're like their budget dropped by probably
75%,
$1 billion,
75%,
well, $1 billion more or more.
Right. At the national level,
the whole country, not just New York. Country doesn't revolve around New York, man.
Well, we're about to tell you. At the national level, however, Prohibition cost the federal government a total of $11 billion in lost tax revenue.
And that's through the whole 14 years of it being up?
Right.
Well,
no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. While costing over $300 million to enforce. So they lost almost $12 billion, basically, put together $12 billion. The most lasting consequence was
not
that
basically at all. They lost $11,300,000,000.
right. So it's not at all. It's not even halfway to 12 billion. The most lasting
It's almost 11 billion.
Right. We'll call it 11.
If we're doing roundage.
We'll round it out to 11. The most lasting consequence was that many states and the federal government would come to rely on income tax revenue to fund their budgets going forward.
And you know what happened after that?
Right.
How many goods got increased? How many taxes got hiked in those 14 years of Prohibition?
A lot.
How many other taxes went up?
A lot. A lot.
Well, Prohibition also led to many more unintended consequences because of the cat and mouse nature of Prohibition enforcement.
Right.
While the 18th Amendment prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of intoxicating beverages, it did not outlaw the possession or consumption of alcohol in the United States, which we already
The
covered.
only thing they can do is make it illegal in public. If you got caught in public. But
No,
if they
you
can't
could have it on your. You could possess alcohol.
right. But they will still crack down on that.
Yeah.
The Volstead Act, it's still yours.
The Volstead Act, which is Prohibition, which is the federal law that provided the enforcement of Prohibition, also left enough loopholes and quirks that it opened the door to a myriad of schemes to invade the dry mandate.
Obviously. It wasn't done accidentally. It was done on purpose.
They know.
Right. One of the legal exemptions to the Prohibition law was the pharmacists were allowed to dispense whiskey by description.
Yep, we've seen
By prescription.
a number of
Right.
people we've covered do that.
For any of ailments.
George Remus, the most notable.
Right. They can prescribe it from anxiety to influenza. So
It's just
anything.
see, I'm gonna keep going back to medical marijuana. When before marijuana got recreational approved here in Michigan, you could literally go online and get a fucking prescription for medical marijuana.
Basically.
And all you had to do is go see a doctor and be like, "Oh, my back hurts. So
Right.
here's medical marijuana."
Right. You had to pay like $200 for the
Right.
the fee
And
or
that's
something.
literally all you had to do.
Right. That's it. Bootleggers quickly discovered that running a pharmacy was a perfect front for the
As
trade.
stated.
Obviously.
See again, George Remus.
As a result of this, the number of registered pharmacists in New York State tripled.
Tripled. That was just in New York State, which I imagine pretty much the same numbers across the
Right.
nation.
Right.
Because Americans were also allowed to obtain wine for religious purposes. Oh shit, we got crooked fathers. I mean, they've always been crooked, but
Right.
all those establishments, they're getting crooked too now.
Right.
And Romans rose at churches and synagogues. They're like, instead of just like a little sip out of the flask or whatever, they're fucking like, give me the whole bottle, pastor.
Next thing you know, they got rabbis all over the fucking place. Fucking Jewish motherfuckers.
I don't think Jews do. Oh, and churches and synagogues, Jews do.
Not supposed to.
Jews do a ceremony with wine.
Just
Do
a
they?
ceremony, they say.
Well, at mass, you line up, you get the little the
Right.
little dry ass tablet of bread, and you take a sip of wine. That's
Right.
at mass.
But it's usually.
I didn't know they do it in.
It's usually grape juice.
No, it's legit wine. Should be if that's what it's for.
In a Christian church.
No.
In those Jewish, yes, it's real
In
wine.
Catholics,
Yeah, it's
in
real
Catholic
wine.
church
And
should
Catholic,
be.
No, Catholic, it's a.
No, I've been to one.
Yeah, it's a grape juice.
No,
that's
it's 100% of wine,
No, it's distilled grape juice, but it's not wine.
dude. It's wine.
It's unalcoholic.
It's wine. No,
Yes, it's still wine.
it's 100% alcoholic.
No.
Yes.
They make
Maybe some churches, but most of them no. They just legit wine.
some of them, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
maybe like a real Catholic church.
Yeah.
But like the Christian and
Christians don't do ceremonies with
they do
wine
communion. Yes,
No.
they do.
Christians do not.
Yes.
No, not a Baptist church. I've never.
Baptist
I went
church
to
does
Baptist church my
communion.
whole life. I've never done a communion or even
Yes.
even seen a communion.
Yes, in Baptist
No.
church all fucking day.
No, you get baptized. You get baptized. You don't get a
No.
fucking piece of dry ass bread and
they only
sip of wine.
They only do it once a year. They do it once a year.
No.
And it's during Easter.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Every church I went to have done communion.
No.
Every church.
And you take a drink of wine.
You take a drink of juice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not wine.
I don't know about that.
And you eat a cracker. And
That's a Catholic.
it's not
thing.
even the cracker thing that Catholics give. It's just like a cracker. It's like an oyster cracker. They buy a bag of oyster crackers for $1 and buy some grape juice. That's seriously what it is.
Sparkling.
Right. Not even sparkling,
grape
just regular ocean spray fucking grape juice and some oyster crackers.
Well, either or.
That's what you
In
get.
Romans rules at churches and
Damn,
synagogues
fuck on my finger. That's not-
and cities saw a large increase in the number of self-professed rabbis who could
We should go
obtain
back
wine
and
for
do
their
all that
congregation.
again.
Because Americans were also allowed to obtain wine for religious purposes, enrollments rose at churches and synagogues, and cities saw a large increase in the number of self-professed rabbis. And they're like, l'chaim.
Right.
who could obtain wine for their congregation.
I mean, of course. The law was unclear when it came to Americans making wine at home. With a wink and a nod, the American grape industry began selling kits of juice concentrate with warnings not to leave them sitting too long or else they could ferment and turn into wine.
I bet you it was a big-ass sticker on the side, too. Warning, do not leave sitting too long or it could turn into alcohol.
Right. Home stills were technically illegal, but Americans found they could purchase them at many hardware stores.
Yeah.
While instructions for distilling could be found in public libraries and pamphlets issued by the United States Department of Agriculture.
Jeez, the United States Department of Agriculture, a federal fucking agency, is handing out pamphlets to the damn libraries like, hey, make sure everybody knows how to... Or maybe they did it on purpose.
Well, they're already there, too, before, I bet.
Yeah, but maybe they did it on purpose. We're going to hand out a bunch of these so now we can catch more people and we'll make the prohibition law seem like it mattered.
Right. They're going to spend money to buy the shit, which is going to put money into the economy, and then we can arrest these motherfuckers for doing it.
Put even more money in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what they thought.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fucking... well, the guy that's arresting you has drank fucking 8 shots that day.
Oh, yeah.
The law that was meant to stop Americans from drinking was instead turning many of them into experts on how to make it. I mean,
oh, Lord.
I mean, how could you not see that coming? Seriously.
What do you do?
Seriously.
Stupid.
How do you not see that coming?
Hoover did.
It's like if they sold marijuana smoking bowls. And then one day they said...
You forgot your smoking lamp.
Yeah, and one day they said, we're not selling these anymore. These motherfuckers are going to know exactly... They're going to do anything they can to make them...
What are you talking about? The same thing happened with weed.
Right.
People grew it. People found ways outside of the law to do it.
Anything.
Ain't no different.
Right. Anything. No matter what it is.
Well, the trade in unregulated alcohol had serious consequences for public health as well. Yeah, that dirty fucking bathtub gin.
A lot of it was bad.
As the trade in illegal alcohol became more lucrative, the quality of alcohol on the black market declined, as usual of every fucking nasty shit is.
Right.
On average, 1,000 Americans died every year during the Prohibition from the effects of drinking tainted liquor.
And I think that's a small number.
That's probably way smaller, yeah.
Right. The effects of Prohibition on law
You
enforcement...
literally had people mixing up fucking...
anything.
Whiskey and shit, bathtub gin,
right,
in their nasty fucking not even clean bathtub. Oh, dude, I can't even imagine. Like, that's so fucking gross. So gross.
It's disgusting. The effects of Prohibition on law enforcement were also very negative. The sums of the money being exchanged during the dry era proved a corrupting influence in both the Federal Bureau of Prohibition and at the state and local level, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Police officers and Prohibition agents alike were frequently tempted by bribes or lucrative opportunity to go into bootlegging themselves. Obviously. I mean, come on.
We've covered it.
Right.
We've covered it. You guys already know.
We know every single one of these motherfuckers are alcoholics. But they're allowed to do it because they got the law on their side. Many stayed honest. Did many? I think some stayed honest. But enough succumbed to the temptation that the stereotype of the corrupt Prohibition agent or local cop undermine public trust in law enforcement for the duration of this Prohibition era.
See?
And it's not even a Prohibition era. This final 2-3 sentences that it said is every fucking era. No matter what law they come in to do, these motherfuckers are breaking them, and they know how to break them, but yet they have to enforce them.
Well, no matter what law or whatever we're talking about,
right?
There's dirty cops. It's just fact. Dirty politicians, dirty cops, dirty legislators. There's dirty. There's dirty people from the local level all the way up to the fucking.
See, that's where the cops get the blame because the cops are the ones seen on the streets,
and a lot of them are paid off to look away or arrest their rivals.
But most of them are paid off by the guys that are in buildings in suits and ties.
Okay,
So the cops get most of the back fucking lash when they're the ones on the streets. But these guys are just doing what they're fucking told from the ladder.
Okay.
And the ladder, the guys on each step of the ladder going higher is way more fucking powerful than that fucking cop.
Okay. Fail to see your point.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying. Like today, cops get the fucking bad end of the stick. They're assholes. They're this. They're murderers. They're this. No. They're the low end of the totem pole of the fucking globalist elite.
All right. Well, the growth of illegal liquor trade under Prohibition made criminals of millions of Americans. Obviously, this is the whole reason we been doing these episodes. As the decade progressed, courtrooms and jails overflowed, and the legal system failed to keep up.
It was a pandemic.
Many defendants in Prohibition cases waited over a year to be brought to trial.
Oh, shit.
As the backlog of cases increased, the judicial system turned to the plea bargain. Oh, shit. So the plea bargain was invented.
Right, because they're like, we just take a plea bargain and get the fuck out of here.
Right. Well, to clear hundreds of cases at a time, making it a common practice in American jurisprudence for the first time.
Which is bullshit because
jurisprudence.
They're admitting to a crime, but they're not, but they are. No contest is when no contest.
Yeah, they're taking a plea bargain. If you admit to this, we'll not charge you with this.
But
that's what they're doing. If you admit to possessing over the legal amount, we'll drop transporting, intent to sell, and all their fucking large charges that are going to go through the legal system even longer.
Right, just give you this.
Right, and you'll pay a fine, and then you're fucking out of here. Right. Same thing they do for fucking nowadays.
Right, it's true. It still puts you in the system, though, so if something else would happen, like,
of course.
You have history, bitch.
They know what you were plea bargained and your charge. Your charges are still on file, what you were charged with. So
Right. Well, the greatest unintended consequence of Prohibition, however, was the plainest to see.
Ooh, plainest to see.
For over a decade, the law that was meant to foster temperance instead of fostered intemperance and excess.
Oh, see, yeah. People are getting a hold of it like it's scarce, and they're fucking hoarding it and then drinking way too much of it because they haven't had it in a while.
The solution in the United States had devised to address the problem of alcohol abuse and instead made the problem even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're hiding this shit. Now if they, like you said, if these guys have problems, they ain't going to the doctors or anything because they're going to be, oh, where are you getting this liquor from? And then you're going to get killed by the mobsters because they know you went to the doctors and like, did you say anything? We can't trust you didn't say anything.
Right.
Done. Kill the whole family. The statistics of the period are notoriously unreliable, but it's very clear that in many parts of the United States of America, more people were drinking.
That alludes to what I was telling you earlier.
And people were drinking more.
In the first couple of years, drinking actually went down, but after like 1922, when everybody was like, yeah, fuck this shit, from 22 to 33, drinking fucking went up and up and up and up and up.
Up and up.
There's this quote from the German chancellor that visited in like 38 or 28. I mean, came to the Washington and asked, he was like, so when does your prohibition come into effect? So this guy it's already been in effect for 10 years almost, and he comes in and he's like, so when does prohibition come into effect? That's how bad people were drinking openly pretty much by that time. Like he's like, I didn't know that you guys were in prohibition pretty much.
Well, they can't buy it on a corner street.
Right. Well, there's little doubt that prohibition failed to achieve what it set out to do, and that its unintended consequences were far more reaching than its few benefits.
I mean, just face it. It was a terrible, terrible idea. They didn't research it. They didn't
weigh the consequences against the benefits, which the consequences, if you put it on one of those, like the scale that you see in law, like the judicial thing, they put it on the scale. The one side of consequences is going to go all the way down.
They didn't weigh the pros and cons.
Right. They didn't isn't that what you were taught in like elementary? Make a list, pros on one side, cons on the other side, and then fucking go through whichever's greater. You probably want to stick to that
side. That's usually how it goes.
Right.
These guys didn't do it. They're thinking, hey, we can end this, and that'll. It was a national crisis back then. Alcoholism.
Was it any more than it? Statistics have proved that it's no more prevalent drinking alcohol than it is nowadays.
Well, in the cities, they're getting ran by fucking.
It started from the temperance movement from women's rights groups.
Right.
They were tired of getting beat on by their husbands. They were tired of getting beat on by their husbands. They blamed alcohol for it, and then therefore that was the big thing that fucking happened.
Right.
Oh, alcohol's got to be the problem. Or no, how about your fucking husband hates you? He's got a miserable life with you, and you got 3 fucking ungrateful fucking kids. Well, is that never ever factored in?
I'm sure it has, man. There's so much we can go on and on about this and go off topic, but the problem here's the final the
lesson. If there's a lesson to be learned from prohibition, it's this right here.
It's hey, Great idea. Just didn't fucking you just didn't
Great idea, just didn't execute.
right. Great idea is it wasn't executed. It was poorly executed. Great idea. Now you can write that out in the books and be like, how can I fix this later on? But the problem was it was a bad idea from the first couple of years and they knew it and it still ran for what, another 8 years?
14 years almost.
Oh, so another fucking 12 years?
Well, it came in effect in 20 and ran to 33, so the law was passed in 1919, 1918, something like that.
Here's the thing. They wanted to pass a law that they thought was morally right, and that's what people wanted, but they didn't want it. That's the whole thing.
I don't even think people wanted it.
Right.
Clearly, it wasn't.
Right.
Clearly, it wasn't popular.
They knew damn well they were going to pass
the
law.
vote wasn't popular amongst probably the majority of Americans.
The guy that signed, the fucking president that signed this fucking law in the act probably had a fucking a shot of fucking bourbon sitting next to him. I can guarantee it. After all that, here's the ultimate lesson. It's a twofold lesson. You guys know what twofold is, right? TWO/. No, it's a dash. No, it's a dash.
It is a dash.
FOLD. Twofold. Watch out for solutions that end up worse than the problems they set out to solve.
Isn't that what Trump said?
We've been hearing for
isn't
the
that
past
what
2
Trump
years.
said?
Right.
The cure is worse than the problem.
Right. The solution can't be worse than the problem.
Right.
We've been hearing this for the past 2 years, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that the United States Constitution
is no place for what?
For experiments, noble or otherwise.
So no matter what your
in
little
good faith or not,
right, no matter what your conscience says, no matter what your heart feels, the Constitution, which makes
let's repeat this
laws and all that stuff, it's no place for experiments. Whether I had good mindset, I had good intentions behind it. It's no place for that.
Right. So let's get this straight, folks. The United States Constitution is in no place for experiments, whether noble nor otherwise.
Right. Experiments, exactly what Prohibition was. The great Prohibition experiment. And alluding to what Dang just said with the president having a shot of bourbon right by his side while he signed the amendment. They had their own bootlegger, and he was known as the man in the green hat.
Oh, I think I remember. I heard that before.
Members of Congress who wanted alcohol during Prohibition could turn to Capitol Hill's top bootlegger, George L. Cassidy. Cassidy, he walked through the halls of Congress, making up to 25 deliveries of illegal booze a day, while Capitol Police allowed him in at all hours.
Obviously.
Over 5 years, he supplied bottles of whiskey, moonshine, scotch, bourbon, and gin from his sturdy leather briefcase. His politician friends got him in they even got him a room to work out of in the House office building.
Of course they did.
In 1925, when he was arrested, he had on a light green hat, and from the press accounts, the man in the green hat stuck. Well, Cassidy pleaded guilty and simply switched to selling in the Senate office building instead of the House. So he's like, I'm not gonna sell to the House no more. I'm gonna go to the Senate building, and then we're gonna sell from there. Well, his infamy spread to the office of Vice President Charles Curtis, who set up a sting operation in 1930 with a Prohibition agent dry spy watching Cassidy from the Senate stationery store. Cassidy was arrested with 6 bottles of gin and his client list, which of course was never published. Imagine his client list, who was on that client. I guarantee the president himself was on that client list.
That was probably the Vice President, Charles Curtis,
was
on that list.
He was only sentenced to a year in prison. He later wrote that he helped 80% of Congress violate Prohibition laws. And
he had to be a fall man.
That story right there.
He had to be a fall man, and he knew it when he did it.
That story right there sums up what Prohibition was.
I guarantee you.
How you said at the beginning of this episode.
Right.
Rules for thee, not for me. And this story perfectly summed up everything. Prohibition in a nutshell.
And it's everything in a nutshell. Any type of law or a bill or an act. It's all it is.
Well, I mean, haven't we seen the same thing during COVID? All these lawmakers and all these governors and all these guys going to restaurants and going out of state and going on vacation and doing this and doing that, no masks and violating their own fucking lockdown orders that they put in place.
Right.
Same fucking thing 100 years later.
It's no different.
90 years later.
It's no fucking different.
100 years later, and that's 2021, so it was 100 years ago. Yeah.
It's all who's smart enough to see it and who's brave enough to fucking to shout it.
Right.
That's all it is, boys.
Prohibition, big fucking
There was
failure.
a lot of shouters, and a lot of people got moited.
Big failure.
Big failure for Prohibition because what they were doing is either killing everybody off or putting everybody in jail.
Big failure, and it was 100% the government's fault.
100% the government's fault, and 100% the government behind it.
But yeah, that was kind of like the effects and the kind of just, I mean, most of the stuff you guys already knew and heard if you've been listening to the show over the last however many we released on People of Prohibition, because everything we've been saying, you've seen it play out in all of these the people that we profiled.
It was preached to the country that it was a great idea and it's going to help you when everybody knew, even the people that wanted to believe it, they knew.
Well, certainly they knew after they had hopes when it was passed, but after a few years, everybody was just like, I give up.
Right.
I give up.
This was a bad idea.
And we seen it because Canada, they ended it 5 years before fucking United States even did. They knew it was a failure.
There's no way this is going to work, guys.
But fortunately for us, in this show, Prohibition created what is soon to be the staple of our show coming up. But before we get to there, we're going to go to 1930s famous gangsters who are Bonnie and Clyde, Machine Gun Kelly, John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson.
Which is about the same thing. It's leading up to. It's leading up.
Prohibition didn't cause these guys. These guys were bank robbers and these guys were.
Yeah, but they're doing this shit behind the scenes. There's a lot of stories that we didn't tell in the 20s of bank robbers and shit, just like these guys we didn't do. So now that Prohibition's done, that was a major thing in America, was fucking the legal sale of alcohol. Now that shit's done, we get to go back to regular outlaws. That are still robbing banks like Jesse James back in the fucking 1800s.
These guys at the time were modern day
Maharajas.
Maharajas. These guys back in the day were modern cowboys.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right.
All these guys.
Right.
Babyface Nelson, Machine Gun Kelly, John Dillinger, Public Enemy number 1. You know how many Public Enemy number? Yeah, this is like This is like the Public Enemy number 1 era. When they first made
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde. Speaking of Bonnie and Clyde, that's exactly who we'll start with. I think that one's probably going to be a two-parter because I think we're going to have to.
It's definitely going to be a two-parter.
I think we're going to have to definitely go into Bonnie and Clyde's early lives up until they meet.
We might even do separate shows, just Bonnie and then Clyde. And then
Bonnie and Clyde together, right? Yeah. I don't know if either of them have that much of a story to do a whole episode on.
10-minute shows.
No. Yeah. We don't do 10-minute shows, man.
Well, we're gonna know.
We don't do 10-minute shows.
It's fucking.
We got a lot of stuff coming up for you guys. The 30s. We're gonna, like I said on the last episode, if you guys listened, we're not. Yes, there might have been. There was 100% mafia figures operating in the 30s, 40s, 50s,
for sure,
all that stuff. But
we might even go back to a couple.
Well, we are because the mafia, like I said, is going to kind of be like it's standalone, but it'll still be on obviously Outlaws Gunslingers. But we're going to cover the mafia from when it began in the 1920s, 30s, and then it'll be solely about mafia. We could do stories in the 30s about mafia and 40s, but no, that just convolutes the fucking shit. No. We want mafia to be all by itself.
We're doing eras, guys. Eras,
right? Until it comes to mafia, then we'll cover all eras of the mafia.
Obviously, but. Right.
Yeah, we're gonna move into the
called organized crime.
We're gonna be called We're gonna move into the 30s, then the 40s, then the 50s, and go decade by decade of the most famous criminals who did shit in that decade.
Right.
Of course, their career could span earlier or before, but their main crime and what they did was known in the decade that we're covering. So,
and if they did stuff before, you hear it.
Right. Obviously, you guys have heard this podcast by now 40 times, so. You guys already know what the dealio is, so that's all. We got a lot coming up, and plus we have a proposed...
I mean, we can't do a Michael Jordan fucking biography in the 70s when he was born. Right? Technically, he's from the 70s.
Well, right, obviously, if we're doing sports stuff... If we're doing sports stuff by decades, we would do
anybody.
But if we're doing sports stuff by whatever... We would do the year they came in the league or the year they were most impactful. We're not going to fucking be like, oh, the 70s, Jordan was born in 73, so he's a 70s basketball player. No, obviously not.
Right.
So, I mean, same kind of deal here. Right. But we have so much stuff coming up for you guys. Maybe even a spin-off of
Oh, it's not.
Maybe even a spin-off
Maybe.
of lesser stories that weren't long enough to have an hour episode, and maybe just do shorts of like a 10-minute episode of a real quick.
We're thinking of a name. Hopefully it gets your guys' fucking shirt rattled where you're going to listen to it.
Yeah, maybe a spin-off of, doesn't matter what era. We'll just do that as
just O&G shorts.
We'll just do that as a random.
That sound very good.
We'll just do that one as a random standalone, where it doesn't matter what era,
right,
but only up into the eras we've covered.
It could be 10, 15 minutes. It could be a half hour. That show could be 45 fucking minutes. You never know.
Well, depending on because if it's going to be 45 minutes, it would have been a regular show. We're doing
the
whole point of this is it'd be shorts. We're only going to do their story of the lesser known people that don't have as much known about them, but they were still a presence in Prohibition or Wild West or something like that.
We can intend on it being a short, and next thing you know, we're on a fucking 25-minute conversation.
No.
You never fucking know.
No.
Happens all the time, bud. Happens all the time.
Or we can call it an extra shot of Outlaws and Gunslingers.
No.
Outlaws and Gunslingers.
One for the road.
We're not a fucking liquor podcast.
Huh?
We're not a booze podcast.
All right.
It can't be one for the road or an extra shot of fucking Outlaws and Gunslingers.
All right.
It'd have to be something pertaining to criminals or something. Like, what's a criminal term that's like...
Single shot. Is that Outlaws and Gunslingers?
Is there such thing as a single shot fucking pistol? No.
What shotgun there is?
Not a single shot.
Yeah.
A single shot shotgun?
Yeah. You can fucking load it.
I mean, I guess. Single barrel shotgun.
Single shot.
Single barrel. Single barrel.
Right.
That's why it's called a double barrel, because there's two barrels.
Right.
Two shots.
Well, you get a fucking single shot shotgun. It's
one barrel.
Or if you're still back in those days, you might still have a fucking...
Anyways, there's got to be a term.
A black powder.
There's got to be a term for something short.
For what?
That exists for criminals and gangs. What's like a acronym, not an acronym, a synonym for short in the gang world?
All right, we'll figure it out. Don't worry, guys. We got it
Yeah, if you guys know,
under control.
somebody email us a synonym, sort of something to do with crime or criminals that we could name our short episodes. bangdangpodcast@gmail.com.
So what are we doing next episode? It's not
next week.
It's not Billy. It's not Bonnie and Clyde.
Next week we do start Bonnie and Clyde, whether it be
we didn't
whether it be a single show of just Bonnie and Clyde's upbringing.
I think we need a show to introduce to what we're doing. We didn't do that in this episode.
There's not a show of introducing bank robbers in the 30s.
We had a fucking transition episode from Wild West to this.
We didn't.
It was transition.
No, it was gambling that had nothing to do with fucking Prohibition.
Of course it did.
Gambling in the Wild West didn't transition into Prohibition whatsoever.
Right. We did what we needed to do.
At the start of whatever episode we do next, we can talk a little bit, just like we're doing now. Talk a little bit about what we're going to be covering. But
this is the last fucking episode.
Next week's episode, we will start.
We will never mention Prohibition again.
Oh, that's a lie. Next week's episode, we will start.
That's true.
Bonnie and Clyde, whether it be an episode just on Bonnie and Clyde, and then episode 2 will be about their run of crime together, or if we can manage to find stories that are long enough for each episode for each of Bonnie and Clyde, then we'll do 2 episodes before we get where they got together. So either or, there's going to be 2 episodes Bonnie and Clyde for sure.
Right.
And then we'll move on to the guys I've mentioned, plus you know how we do it, littler mentioned guys that you probably never heard of, and probably way more interesting stories than the publicized ones. So.
We are getting into a very interesting...
So we're getting into
a very interesting... We're getting
into a great time for crime in the United States.
Right. And
that's not even included, guys.
There's going to be a lot of law enforcement in this as well.
You got to remember, that's not even including...
Law enforcement.
No, that's not even including serial killers and other famous criminals of the same eras
that
we're in.
That's a show, guys, that we're going to be... that's a spoiler or a to-come... Is that what we call it? A to come? A to come be?
A to come?
A to come. A to come. A future listen.
a future endeavor.
Right.
Yeah. So enough of talking. We've said the same fucking thing we've said right now for the last 8 podcasts. So of course it is. Now that you said that, it is. Yeah.
It's not.
Make sure you guys are seriously going to check out the Bang and Dang Show, where we do shit just like how we've been doing pretty much this whole episode.
Right.
Going off track and talking shit, just real fucking talk that is just off the top of our head. Yeah.
Just run our mouths, man.
Right.
Run our fucking mouths. That's all we're doing.
The Bang and Dang Show, wherever you get your podcast.
Don't take shit seriously.
Yeah, and if you
take shit seriously, don't listen to our show.
If you're
easily offended, don't listen.
If you guys are liking,
don't have dark. If you don't like George Carlin, don't listen to our show. That's what I can say. If you don't think George Carlin's not funny,
right.
Don't listen to our show. I mean, because you gotta have that type of humor.
Well, I guess it would have been the same if you don't think George Carlin's not funny. That would mean you think he's funny. So you were on track there. I guess.
Right. Because that's the same type of humor, same type of audience that we seek.
Review, give us a subscription, do all that stuff to support us. Go to Twitter.
Come on. If you can scroll through Twitter,
go to Twitter
and like and retweet posts. You can fucking hit the like button on a fucking podcast, right? Is that what you gotta do? Or you gotta sign in and all that shit?
If they have people who listen to podcasts usually have an account for the podcast platform they're listening on,
so they can just like it.
They could just like it or save it to their things. But yeah, or go to Twitter at OGMM Podcast and like us, give us a like there. That's where you'll see all the show updates and everything about the show over there. Or email us. Like I said, just tell us what you want to hear. Anybody you interested in, or you think we missed something when we were doing an episode, you think we got something wrong, dispute us. We can bring you on the show and dispute it with you and see where we went wrong, or we could shout you out on air, like, hey, this guy told us that we said this wrong. This is actually this. So, yeah, interact, and you guys can get involved in the show just like we're getting involved in it. And, I mean, if you guys are liking it, I don't see why not. What can it hurt, right?
And this part of what we're doing, we're moving into the mafia. We're gonna have
guys.
We're gonna have some very, very loved people coming in and helping us out. You guys gonna like that?
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Are we?
You guys gonna like that?
Are we?
You're gonna have 2 people that are loved to death. You're gonna love them.
Well, with that being said, we'll be back next week for the first leg of 30s.
We're getting into good shit.
Of the 30s crime wave and Bonnie and Clyde. So
Bonnie and Clyde.
We'll see you next week. This is the Monthly Michiganders with
Bang Dang!